Good afternoon and welcome everyone to today's webinar. By way of introduction, I'm Anne Livingston and the Chair of the Queensland Government-funded Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. I will be moderator for today's webinar titled The iPad, How This Device Can Assist Individuals with Visual Impairment. This webinar is part of a series of sessions being facilitated by Community Resourcing for the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. These webinars have been designed from feedback and requests we have received through the collaborative. Our webinars are bringing together local, national and international perspectives in research and development, as well as focusing on the deployment of smart assistive technology in the community care sector specifically. Community resourcing has extensive international linkages, and we use these linkages to enhance the projects that we work on. We're very fortunate to work on many international projects and research, and some of those were on the previous slide. Community Resourcing is very proud to have been awarded the National ICT Innovative Entrepreneurial Project of the Year Award, and last week we were equally proud to be awarded the Best Initiative as voted by consumers at the 2006 ITAC conference. We're particularly proud to mention that a number of our expert reference group members have been recognised in awards for their work in the collaborative. I particularly note Professor Greg Teggett on your screen there, being recognised in the Australian of the Year program, and Greg's currently Senior of the Australian of the Year in the ACT. Dr. Mohan Karunanithy, Dr. Eleanor Horton and myself were appointed by the Minister of Innovation, Science and the Digital Economy and the Minister for Small Business as Advanced Queensland Community Digital Champions. Digital inclusion is a really important issue in our project, and today's presenter is going to talk further about that. A very recent and exciting development for us was also being finalists in the eHealth Queensland Startup and Innovation Showcase for a project that has emerged from the collaborative. Our expert reference group ensures that the information and activities relating to this project are of high quality and focused. I would like to take the opportunity to highlight the work of our reference group, and their names are on your screen now. They take a lot of work on a voluntary basis to the collaborative, and as well as the project team work with us around engagement on the collaborative, both statewide, nationally and of course internationally. Recently we held a number of Smart Assistive Technology events which engaged individuals, family members, formal and informal carers and service providers throughout Queensland. It's great to get out in the regional areas and some remote areas and to share the possibilities and benefits that technology can deliver. It's great to have so many of the new participants in today's session, as well as welcoming back many who have attended the past webinars. Today we've got representation again from every state and territory, as well as some international visitors. So thank you particularly to John and others in New Zealand who have joined us again today. If you haven't already registered for the collaborative, on front of your screen there is our site to register. We'd encourage you to register, that way you will get all the information flowing from the collaborative. Those who have attended previous sessions know that community resourcing has been funded by the Queensland Government to bring together an online platform for community care service providers and now also consumers who are interested in collaborating on issues and practices related to smart assistive technology. Our project has achieved extensive national and international geographical reach, and this is growing daily. Many of you today would be aware that we're in the final stages of revamping the platform, as well as putting together a consumer portal on the site. We've employed co-design and collaboration concepts in developing this new area, and we look forward to your feedback on this new enhancement. Before we start today's webinar, I need to note a disclaimer that neither the Community Resourcing or the Department of Communities, Child Safety and Disability Services are promoting or endorsing any particular product, research entity or organisation. Rather, our webinars serve to inform viewers of examples of various smart assistive technologies in development and in deployment, and also to bring to you experts like our presenter today, Jacqui Kirkman, who's really been doing extensive work in this area. A bit of housekeeping. As today's attendees in this session, and in the interests of recording, we've muted your microphones. We encourage you to ask any questions, and these questions can be added to the question pane on the dashboard to the right of your screen. There will be an opportunity at the end of the session to have these answered. At previous sessions, we have been inundated with questions, and if the last session with Jacqui's any example, the questions were flowing quick and fast. So get your questions in early, and we'll ensure that they're covered in today's session. In today's session, we will build on the webinar that Jacqui delivered last month, where an introduction to iPad's accessibility features were explored and discussed. This session will be focused more on how individuals with visual impairment can use the iPad. So by way of formal introduction of today's presenter, Jacqui Kirkman. Jacqui is a Brisbane-based education and accessibility consultant. She's a highly experienced teacher and has helped many students use assistive technology to maximise their learning and their independence. Jacqui has extensive qualifications and credentialing, including a Masters of Education, a graduate diploma in teaching, a Bachelor of Arts, and several accreditations for the work that she is doing in assistive technology. She's also an accredited Cracking the ABC Code teacher. Jacqui is a member of the Apple Consultants Network in a focused areas of education solutions and accessibility. She was recently awarded Apple Professional Learning Specialist status. Together with her husband, Jacqui runs MPD Accessibility, which is an arm of their business Mac and PC Doctors. This essential service offers assistive technology solutions and consultancy based around Apple products. Please join me in welcoming Jacqui to today's webinar. Welcome, Jacqui, again.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for having me back. As Anne mentioned, last month we did a very speedy tour through the accessibility features of the iPad. So today this one is going to focus a bit more on the features that can assist people with vision impairment of some sort, and some apps and accessories that might be useful. Of course, what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another person, but I'm hoping this will give you a bit more of a picture to help you either decide if iPad is going to be the solution for you or your loved one or the person you care for, or maybe if you have an iPad already, you might learn some extra things that you could be doing that you weren't aware of. And note that pretty much all I say while I'll be talking about the iPad is also relevant for the iPhone. So we're going to look at the accessibility features that are built into the devices, and we're going to look at a few apps and accessories, and then I have a bit of a resource list for you at the end. All right, so these are the inbuilt accessibility features that Apple has flagged as features that may be helpful for people with either low vision or people who are blind. I won't read through that list now because we'll work through that list. The first one I'm going to talk about is VoiceOver. So VoiceOver is designed for so that someone who isn't able to see an iPad screen well enough to navigate around it can use their fingers to touch the screen, and the iPad will speak aloud whatever is being touched on the screen. I'll show you a demonstration. I've got a little demonstration video that I'm going to put on now. You'll hear when I turn on, in the video, when I turn on VoiceOver, you will hear that the iPad starts to talk. So as with pretty much any of the accessibility settings, we're going to go to the settings icon and then we'll follow the path from there. All right, so I'm pressing the settings button. In general, then accessibility, and then I choose VoiceOver and I'm going to turn it on. I'm just going to pause there for a second. So you could hear that when I was touching the different icons on the screen, the iPad was reading aloud to me which icon I was touching, and when I found the one that I wanted, the iPad told me double tap to open. So when VoiceOver is enabled, it changes the action of the iPad. Instead of just pressing once for something to happen, you wait. Once you've touched it to select it, then you have to double tap to activate it. So it's like you have to use 3 taps to make something active as opposed to 1 tap when VoiceOver is turned off. We're losing this cursor. Here we go. And you can see that the chosen thing has a black border around it. Able to see that. All right, so now I am turning on the rotor, and in a little bit I'll show you how to activate the rotor in settings. But when the rotor is turned on, that means that I can use a 2-finger turn on the screen to bring up the little window that, and then I can choose how I want to read this page on the iPad. At the moment it's showing links. When I turn the video on again, you'll see or hear that I can turn the rotor around and choose whatever I want to read through. So links, headings, text, and then, well, we'll see the action in a second. So I keep twisting my fingers. Okay. So because I chose headings with the rotor, now I do a flick up and down with my finger on the screen and it just reads the headings for me. So just as a sighted person can sort of scan through a page, someone whose sight is not as good can scan through the page by hearing the headings or whatever you choose on the rotor. Because when we read a page, we don't necessarily want to read every single word. We want to get an overview first before we decide which part of it we're going to read. We mightn't want to read it all. All right. So I just turned VoiceOver off using the accessibility shortcut, and I'll show you a bit more than that about that in a minute. But first of all, I just want to show you how you can type in Braille on the iPad using the VoiceOver feature. So before I started this little video, I already had VoiceOver turned on. No, I didn't. I'm turning it on now with the accessibility shortcut. I'm choosing Braille with the rotor. So with the rotor, I chose Braille, and so now there are buttons, buttons on the screen that I can put my fingers on, and I can type in Braille into any app that you would want to put text into. I have another picture here which shows the other way you can, the other display mode for the Braille. So depending on whether you want to hold the iPad in front of you or whether you want to put the iPad on the table in front of you, you can use either. Depending on which way you turn the iPad, it will change the display mode so that the finger spaces are in a more appropriate place. And it depends on where you put your fingers down. You don't have to find exactly the right spot on the screen because obviously there's nothing to feel there. So it will move once it senses fingers on the screen. Okay, so this is the accessibility shortcut that I was talking about. We enable a lot of these things by going through the settings menu, choosing the settings icon, going general, accessibility, but that's a bit painful if you want to turn things on and off quickly. So for that reason, there exists the accessibility shortcut. So this little video is going to show you how to get to the accessibility shortcut and then choose what you want on it, because VoiceOver might be useful for some people, but for other people they might not need to get to it quickly. And then once you've got it set up, you just have to triple click the home button and you will get the little box that gives you the options. So I'll just play this little clip. So we're going to settings, general, accessibility, and we are finding accessibility shortcut right at the bottom, and you can see there the different options for what things you might want on the things that you might want on the accessibility shortcut. I'm just going to take that video back a little bit so I can pause in the right moment. No, I've got to go back a little bit more. Okay. Sorry, apologies for those people listening. Right, I'm pausing here. So this shows us on this list here the options that I could put on the accessibility shortcut. So I've chosen the ones with the ticks next to them, guided access, VoiceOver and Zoom, but you can choose any or all of those, and then when you triple click the home button at any time, you will have the option to quickly enable one of those. We're going to go back to the home screen and now triple click the home button, and there's my accessibility shortcut, and I can choose which one I want to activate. I chose VoiceOver. Now I'm going to turn it off. Okay, so that was how we enable the accessibility shortcut. Another feature that most people are familiar with, it's got a very wide mainstream use as well, is the Siri feature. So Siri is it's basically a voice, and it is able to recognise commands that you give. It's able to, it does searches for you or actions for you, and it can read things aloud to you. So I'm just going to play this Siri with a little demonstration. So that's a few of the types of things Siri can do. You can get Siri, of course, to read the screen aloud to you. It's not much use asking Siri to search something if you can't hear the results, but she can read things aloud for you too. Yeah, so that's Siri. Now, another way you can get something read off the screen is what's called speak screen. This is probably not useful if you have no vision at all, but if you have some vision and you want to, you can mostly use the iPad using your sight, but sometimes you might want something read aloud. This is probably where speak screen comes in. People with dyslexia like to use it as well, people who have a different sort of print disability, but it might be useful for some people. So I'll just show you how to enable speak screen. So settings again, general, accessibility, and it's under speak. So I have speak selection and speak screen turned on. I can change the speaking rate, very slow to very fast, to something that suits me. That's about right. So now I'm going to go and find something that I want read aloud to me. So I'm going to Chrome, 2-finger swipe from the top, and up comes the little bar. So once I've done that 2-finger swipe from the top of the screen, the little speak screen bar comes up, and then I've got a sort of, handy thing. I can change the speed of the voice again with the tortoise and the hare. I can use forward and back buttons to move through the different sections of the different sections on the screen until I get to the bit that I want read aloud to me. And I can dock this little bar too, so you'll see that in just a second when I play the rest of it. Sorry, a few technical difficulties here. I'll just start the speak selection one again. So under speak is where we turn speak selection and speak screen on. So you can see there how I sort of docked the little bar, the speak screen bar, sorry, and put it over to the side where it was out of my way. Speak selection, I realise I have not actually made a little video for this, but I will make one and put it up on our website for anybody who wants to have a look. Again, it probably requires some sight to use, and so basically what you do is you hold down on a bit of text that you want read aloud to you, and it will highlight that, and then you can choose from a little box that pops up to speak the screen. Okay, so now using the same sort of technology that we have for Siri, we can dictate text into any app that needs that you can enter text in by typing, and I'm just going to play you this little clip on dictation, how dictation works. And of course what I haven't mentioned there is that you know, if you're thinking, yes, but you need to be able to see the microphone, if you have VoiceOver on, you can also, you can use VoiceOver to get the dictation process going. So it doesn't rely on being able to find the microphone button to press in that instance. Zoom and magnify. So I think this little clip I'm going to show you actually shows magnify first rather than zoom. So magnify uses the camera of the iPad, and if you enable magnify, here we go under general accessibility again, and I'm going to magnifier, it's turned on. So that means I can use the camera of the iPad to view something at a much higher magnification than you normally can. I mean, and you can use the pinch gesture to magnify or zoom on the screen anyway, but this is at a much higher level. Zoom makes this little window on the screen that I can drag around, and it will just magnify a section for me. And both of these things I can put in the accessibility shortcut so that I can quickly get to them if I want to. Display accommodations, so there are also a few little things that you can adjust depending on if you have some vision, but because of colour or glare, certain things are hard to see. So we can invert colours. Note that it will do that even on your photos. Colour filters, you can choose to filter by certain types of colours, and reduce white point for people who, for whom glare is an issue. So that's just under display accommodations. And just a few other adjustments that are visible here under general and accessibility again. We can change, we can put a larger text. Again, you can, anybody at any time, you can zoom with your a finger pinch out to make something bigger, but this makes it even bigger again. We can bold the text, change the shape of the buttons, increase the contrast. Reduce motion means that if there is a clip, something like a video clip, you can reduce or stop that automatically if that's something that interferes with your being able to comprehend what's on the screen. And this is just a picture when you go into font size adjustments, and you can drag the slider to make the text considerably bigger. And just a reminder that there are a few other out-of-the-box accessibility type features. I did mention them last time, but reminders and notifications are there, and they can give you an audible alert, so you don't have to be able to rely on seeing that there's a notification. iBooks, just about anything you'll get in iBooks, you can have it as an audio book. It can read it aloud to you, and you can integrate your Apple devices so that whatever if you're out and about and you don't want to carry your iPad around, iWatch can do some things for you, like notifications. Just want to mention that the iPad does support Braille displays, and there is a link which I've put there on the screen. You'll be able to see it on the website later. And if you click on that link, it gives you a list of supported Braille displays. Just want to mention a few other things you might consider. Some sort of aspects of home automation, such as Ring doorbell. So you can speak from the safety of inside your home. You can speak to whoever's outside and decide if you want to open the door to them. And the Kivo Smart Lock, if sometimes locating the keys in the lock is an issue for you, then you can use your smartphone app, or you can use a fob to unlock your door. And then there's a range of little devices. Tile's probably the best known one, but there are others that you put attached to an item, and then you can use your phone to track that item if it's something you might have trouble locating if your vision isn't great. In the resources slide at the end, I have a link to a podcast by David Woodbridge about using tile, about the uses of tile for someone with a vision impairment. And I'm not going into apps too much because there are just so many apps on the App Store, what suits one person isn't necessarily going to suit another person. What I always recommend is that you Google apps for vision impairment or good apps for people who have vision impairment, and you will find other people's lists, and I've put a couple of those in the resources. But on this screen there's some ideas of some types of apps that are typically popular for people with low vision or who are blind. And running out a bit of a time, so I won't go into this in too much detail, but a few other apps that can be useful when you're writing to do speech to text. So we looked at the inbuilt dictation feature of the iPad, but then there are apps like Dragon and Voice Dream Writer, which you can use to enter text by speaking, and text prediction, again, that might be useful if you have low vision. Read and Write for iPad and I Read Write are some options there. If you're reading text, again, we've talked about Speak Screen, we've talked about VoiceOver, but a few other options are, if you look at the bottom, reading text to speech. These apps like Read to Go, BorrowBox, Audible, Voice Dream Reader, those and a few others give you options where you can have text read aloud to you. And sometimes if something is not in an especially accessible format online, or perhaps the text is in a picture, then you can use certain apps to do optical character recognition, and then you can get it read aloud to you. So a few of those apps that do optical character recognition are things like Prismo, and OneNote. I thought I'd just mention the concept of readability, which, we all know when we look at a browser screen, sometimes there's a lot of clutter on it, there's a lot of pictures and links that you don't really want to know about. So something that some people find useful is to use either Safari Reader or an app called Readability, or if you have a Google subscription, Read and Write for Google, to simplify the text, and it takes out all of the extra stuff that you don't need there. So if the pictures at the bottom show a screen before and after Safari Reader with a lot of colour and headings and things taken out, just narrowed down to the basic text. And that's pretty much brought us to the end. This is my resource list, and I apologise that a couple of the things aren't hyperlinked, but we'll fix that up. So a few links to the Apple website about accessibility, about Siri, what Siri can do for you. I just found on the weekend a great website all about the commands you can give to Siri called heysiri.io. So I've put the link to that there. There's a great forum and website about Apple products for vision impaired users called AppleViz. And yeah, forum, blogs, heaps and heaps of information. I'd really recommend that one. A couple of lists of people's apps that people recommend. The Statewide Vision Resource Centre from Victoria has a YouTube channel. Then there's the podcast that I mentioned about the Tile app. The Read and Write for iPad user guide, and I put a link to our website there which tells you a bit more about the process of engaging a consultant. If you're thinking, yeah, look, some of this looks good, but I'm not really sure where to start, then that's part of what we do is to help you sort out what's going to work for you in your context. So Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope that gave you a bit of useful information, and I'm open to any questions that are waiting.
Thanks, Jacqui. That's been fantastic. Great follow-on from your first webinar, and really gives us the opportunity to explore better how to use equipment more appropriately. I've got a couple of questions, so I'm going to start off with a comment. And it was from Sophie, a service provider on the Gold Coast. She says, thanks, Jacqui, for sharing your expertise. You have value-added the ownership of my equipment. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Sophie.
I've got Terry asking, how much do these features cost? What's free and what's got a charge?
Okay, so anything that is built into the iPad it comes with the cost of the iPad. There's no extra charge for that. The apps list that we looked at just towards the end, there can be some cost for some of those apps. Typically they're not hugely expensive. Most of them are in under $20, but yeah, apps will cost. But if you go to the App Store and enter the name of the app, you can see the price without committing to it. But most of what we've talked today is comes out of the box with the iPad. And just while I'm talking about it, when you go to set up a new iPad, it is ready to go using VoiceOver. So when you turn on the iPad and there's a message comes up on the screen, if it doesn't get a response to that quickly, then the iPad knows, oh, this is someone who has low vision or is blind, I need to speak instead of waiting for that person to read.
Great, that's great. Alan also asked, do you need a particular type of iPad, Jacqui, or does it need to be something that's fairly new, or can it be an old iPad?
You need at least an iPad 3 to do things like Siri. The ones before that don't have that sort of the Siri and dictation type features. If you're going out and buying a new iPad, you're probably best to get one of the more recent ones, because you do need to be able to upgrade to the latest version of iOS, which is 10.1, I think, certainly 10 point something. So the newer, if you're going out and buying one, probably the newer the better, but you want to at least get a 3 or afterwards.
Okay, we've had a couple of comments that there was just a problem in the audio on the videos. The video can be downloaded from our website as soon as the project team ordered it. That's not been a widespread problem, so we've checked with other attendees. So it'd be great if you could just access them again from the website. I've got another question from Cynthia about accessories. It's great that you outlined the accessories, Jacqui. Are you able to sort of give some ballpark figures about what the cost is? And before you answer that, I might just remind people that we're coming to the close of the webinar. If you have some questions, other questions to post, while Jacqui's answering this question, if you'd like to post those questions. So Jacqui, the particular question is accessories. Where do you get them? What's the cost? And I personally want to know about the pet tracking tile.
Yeah. So the tile can be ordered online. Just Google tile app. From memory, they look, they're not $10, but they're not $1,000. They might be somewhere in that $80 range or something like that, the tile app. They do a sale every now and again, so I would look up the tile website. Actually, I even noticed the other day in it's not the ABC, is it? I'm allowed to say the name of a business online. I did notice they were in the Harvey Norman catalogue that came with the newspaper on the weekend. So yeah, tile apps are not too hard to find.
And I'm gathering that they're fairly small. Is that correct?
Yes, and they've just made a new version of them that are even thinner. I know I put one in my son's bus pass folder, because the go-card folder, because he has a habit of losing his go-card, and he lost the tile rather than the go-card. But they've now produced a slimmer one that's designed better to fit into a wallet or a bus, a go-card holder. Yeah, so under $100 for a tile, that I can tell you that much. As far as braille displays go, you would need to speak to a specialist provider for that.
That's great. Thank you, Jacqui. Siri, question here from Lenore. That's the first time Lenore's appreciated that Siri is a female. We know females rule the world, but do you want to make any comments, Jacqui, about tailoring Siri to settings and gender, etc.?
Yeah. So by default, Siri is a female voice. I'm not really sure why, but that's just how it comes. But if you go into, again, settings and general and find Siri, you can change the accent. So the Siri you heard on my clips had an Australian accent, but if you prefer a different accent, you can choose a different one, and you can choose a male voice if you prefer that. And for people who use the iPad as a speech generating device, it's the same sort of it's the same sort of technology, and yes, they often prefer to change the voice to suit their personality a bit more.
Terrific. That's probably all the time that we've got available today for questions. So thanks everyone for posting and sending us your questions. But particularly thank you, Jacqui, for today's presentation. Your expertise is really comprehensive, and it's great that you're willing to share that. I'd really direct people to access the resources, and if they need more complex solutions or complex material, I'm sure Jacqui would be willing to talk that through with them. So thanks very much, Jacqui. Really appreciate your webinar today. By way of conclusion of today's webinar, we've got a couple other webinars coming up towards the end of the year. On the 9th of December, this Friday, we have Smart Assistive Technologies in wearable devices, particularly for those supporting people with hearing loss. On the 15th of December, we also have the use of electronic assistive technology for people with disabilities living in shared supported accommodation. And we've got presenter for the first one is Dr. Kevin Doughty from the Centre for Usable Home Technologies at the Universities of Coventry, York and Newcastle. And for the second one, we have a speaker from Monash University. Some upcoming events. In February, we'll be travelling through central western Queensland with a Smart Assistive Technology Roadshow. Importantly to note, on the 14th and 15th of March next year, we're undertaking a community care business transformation through innovation conference at QUT in partnership with a number of other entities. On the 15th of March, we'll be holding a series of workshops. We're looking forward to heading far north Queensland when it cools down a bit, hopefully around April next year. So if you're in any of those areas, please let us know, and we will give you more information. And if you're interested in some information in June this year, June next year, I'm ahead of myself, we'll be taking a study tour through Asia and Canada in conjunction with ICOS, the International Congress on Smart Homes and Health Telematics. I would like to acknowledge the project team, the expert reference team, the Queensland Government, and particularly Jacqui Kirkman, who was today's presenter.
Thank you, Anne, for awarding me a PhD.
For this expertise in this presentation, obviously. So we do make a correction. Jacqui, as I said, noted her qualifications up front. So if you want some more information, there's our email address at the end, and I encourage you to register for our collaborative. Again, thanks Jacqui for your expertise today and spending the time with us today. We hope that the interest generated from this, that you'll get some direct calls on helping people with their issues going forward. So thank you again, Jacqui, and thanks for those who attended today's webinar.